My ex-husband forged my signature to take out $40,000 in personal loans, then he opened 3 credit cards in my name and maxed them out, and when I tried to file a police report, the bank manager who pulled my account file turned out to be his new girlfriend. The same woman he left me for. The same woman I had not yet met. She sat across the desk from me, looked at my driver's license, looked at his name on the loans, and said, very slowly, ma'am, I'm not seeing any fraud here. Everything looks valid. Stay with me, because what I did over the next 90 days got him 8 years in federal prison, got her fired, got her banking license revoked, and got me every single dollar back plus a settlement that paid off my mortgage. His name was Eric. We were married for 7 years. I worked as a registered nurse. He worked, supposedly, as a sales manager at a tech company, though by the end of our marriage I realized I had no idea what he actually did all day. I was the one with the steady paycheck. I was the one with the 790 credit score. I was the one who'd been quietly building our savings without him knowing, because I'd seen the warning signs 3 years before he ever asked for a divorce. Eric left me on a Wednesday in October. He sat me down at the kitchen table and said he'd met someone. He said her name was Brooke. He said she understood him in ways I never had. He said he was sorry. He moved out that weekend. I let him go. I didn't fight. I had already met with a divorce attorney 6 months earlier, just in case. I had already moved most of my savings into an account he didn't know about. I had already taken my name off the joint credit cards. I thought I was prepared. I was not prepared. 3 weeks after Eric moved out, I got a letter from a lender I had never heard of, congratulating me on my new $15,000 personal loan. 2 days after that, I got another letter from a different lender, congratulating me on a $20,000 personal loan. 2 days after that, a $5,000 one. And then the credit card statements started arriving. 3 new credit cards in my name, all opened in the last month, all maxed out within the first 2 weeks. I went online. I pulled my credit report. There were 8 new accounts. Total balance, $47,000. All opened after Eric had moved out. All applications submitted from an IP address registered to his new apartment. I called every lender. I told them my signature was forged. I told them I had not opened these accounts. Each one of them told me the same thing. They could not investigate fraud until I filed a police report and obtained a case number. I went to the police station. I filed the report. The officer was kind but tired. He said this happens all the time. He said most of these cases go nowhere because the spouse always claims they had permission. He said my best path was through the bank's fraud department. I went to the bank. I sat across from a woman named Brooke Holloway, who was wearing a blazer the color of a ripe peach and a nameplate on her desk that said Senior Fraud Specialist. I introduced myself. She was professional. She asked for my license. She typed at her computer for several minutes. She pulled up the loan applications. She studied them. Then she looked at me, and her face changed in a way I cannot fully describe, and she said, very slowly, "Ma'am, I'm not seeing any fraud here. Everything looks valid." I asked her to look again. She said the signatures matched. She said the addresses matched. She said the income on the applications matched my actual income, which would only have been possible if the person filling out the application had access to my pay stubs. She said all of this without breaking eye contact. She said, "I'm sorry, but we cannot find evidence of fraud here. You're going to have to make these payments. If you don't, we'll have to pursue collection." I went home. I sat at the kitchen table. I cried. I called my divorce attorney. My attorney was a woman named Maria. Maria had been a federal prosecutor for 14 years before she went into private practice. She listened to me for 40 minutes. She asked one question at the end. She said, "Sweetheart, what is the name of your ex-husband's new girlfriend?" I told her. Brooke. I did not yet know Brooke's last name. Maria said, "Look up the bank manager's name." I did. Brooke Holloway. There was a silence on the phone. Then Maria said, "I'm coming over right now." Maria came over. She brought a manila folder. She brought a laptop. She brought a printed checklist titled Identity Theft with Insider Bank Collusion. She had handled 3 cases like this before. Over the next 3 days we did the following. We pulled every loan application Eric had submitted in my name. We pulled the metadata on each application, which Maria knew how to subpoena from the lenders. Every application had the same originating IP address. Every application had been processed by a single fraud specialist at the bank. Brooke Holloway. Every application had been approved by Brooke without flagging the standard fraud markers, even though several of the loans were obvious red flags, including back-to-back applications from the same address with no prior credit relationship. Maria filed a federal complaint with the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency on day 4. She filed a criminal complaint with the FBI on day 5. She filed a civil suit against Eric, against Brooke, and against the bank itself on day 6, for negligence in their fraud detection systems. The FBI agent who picked up the case was a woman named Detective Yates. Detective Yates called me on day 9 and said, "We have a problem for Eric and we have a problem for Brooke. Their problem is that you have a forensic accountant for an attorney and you have me. Can you come in and answer some questions on Friday?" I went in on Friday. I told the whole story. Detective Yates took the box of documents Maria had prepared. She thanked me. She said, "Don't tell anyone we talked. Just keep going to work. Live your life. We'll be in touch." For 90 days I did exactly that. I went to work. I paid my actual bills. I let the fraudulent accounts go into collection, on Maria's advice, because the missed payments would become part of the criminal case. On day 93, Detective Yates called me. She said, "Can you come to the bank tomorrow at 10 a.m.? We're going to need you to identify some signatures in person." I went to the bank the next morning. Detective Yates was there with 2 other agents. Brooke Holloway was at her desk in her peach blazer. She saw me walk in. She tried to stand up. The agents stopped her. They walked her out of the building in handcuffs. They walked Eric out of his apartment that same afternoon. They had been preparing the arrests for 3 weeks. The federal indictment named both of them. Wire fraud. Bank fraud. Identity theft. Conspiracy. 27 counts total. Eric pled guilty to 18 of them in exchange for a reduced sentence of 8 years in federal prison. Brooke fought. Brooke lost. Brooke got 11 years. The bank settled the civil suit out of court for $1.1 million. Maria took her cut. I paid off my mortgage. I paid for my mother's hip replacement. I put the rest in an account I named, in my heart, the Peach Blazer Fund. I am divorced. I am debt-free. I bought myself a small house on the coast. I work 3 days a week now, by choice. My credit score is back to 790 because Maria scrubbed every fraudulent account from my report in the settlement. The bank issued a written apology that I had framed and hung in my hallway, next to a printout of the headlines that ran when Eric and Brooke were sentenced. Eric writes me letters from federal prison. He has written 11 so far. They all say the same thing. He says he is sorry. He says he was confused. He says he hopes I can find it in my heart to forgive him. I have not opened any of them. I keep them in a drawer. I am saving them for the parole hearing.